pray and we cry out and we say, God, do something. God, do something in my day. God, do something in our nation. God, do something in our land. God, do something here. God, do something. God, would you move? Would you show? Because what happened that day is what we want to happen in our day. I want people to see that God is who he says he is, and he can do all he says he can do. I want this city, this island, I want it to know that Jesus is the only way back to the Father. I want them to know. I have a prayer inside of me. There's people everywhere and they're searching for something. And I want them to stand in a spot where God proves himself, like shows himself to them, and they turn and give their lives to him. And we're crying out that God would do something spectacular in our day. I hear of all the stories of things that he has done, and I say, God, do it in my day. I don't care if you do it through me. I just want to see it. I just want to be there. I want to see the goodness of God in the land of the living. I want you to do it through our churches. I want you to do it in our nation. And at the same time, how often am I just not willing to put something on the altar before him that costs me something? God, you do it. Okay, Darren, well, I'll need you to do that. Oh, no. Let me stop you right there, God. You do it. God, do something. Sometimes I've prayed that prayer for so long, God, do something. And I remember once praying it and feeling like God said, I already did. I sent Jesus to pay the price for your sin. So, Darren, you do something. But it has to cost us something. And I think our problem is that sometimes we're so willing, like we're up for it. We're all up for a sacrifice as long as it fits in with our convenience. But a sacrifice has to cost me something. It has to cost me something. Oh, I'll sacrifice 10%, God. But don't you ask me for my bank account or my house. I'm not saying that he's asking anybody for their bank account or their house, but he might be. God, I'll give you my Sunday. But don't you ask me for the other 6. You can have Sunday morning, but when I'm out of here, I'm going for a roast. Church is over. I'll see you next week. Amen, for a roast on the front row. Lord, I'll give you a mission trip once a year. I'll go away for a week. I'll serve at kids camp. But the rest of the year, God, the rest of that annual leave's for me. And I'm not criticizing any of those things, because actually those things are important principles that we give, and we give into the house of God, and that we give God our Sundays, and that we take time off to serve God, and we give God some of our annual leave. All that stuff's important to me. But some of those initial things, and initially some of those things are huge. Initially some of those things are massive to us, but I'm not basing my sacrifice on everybody else and what's going on around me. I'm basing my sacrifice on him. I really feel like the Lord's searching for people, like he talks about in Matthew 13, who would find a treasure in a field and would say, this is worth me selling everything for. I'll sell everything I've got for this treasure that I have found. I feel like the Lord's looking for those type of people. And I know that people will look on and go, are you mad? All of that to get... Why would you sell everything? It's not worth all of it. It's not worth everything. But Paul teaches us that in comparison to him, everything else is worthless. I count everything as loss so that I might gain him and be one with him. He's the treasure in the field. He's totally worth it, whatever he asks. There's a woman in Matthew 26, and she bursts through a crowd that she wasn't welcome to, into a party that she wasn't invited to. And she gets before Jesus in front of all of these, like this was like the A-list party. And she bursts through everybody, and she shouldn't be there, and she shouldn't be doing what she's doing. And she gets before his feet, and she pours oil on him in that moment. And this is the most expensive thing that she owns. She pours out this oil before him. And it's like, this is her entire financial security. She pours it out before him. And some people scorned her. And some other followers of Jesus were like, what is she doing? We could sell that and we could give the money to the poor. Like, this is an absolute waste. But she had a revelation of Jesus Christ. And she understood all that he had done for her and how he had saved her and changed her. And she understood who he was, and it caused her to step out of her convenience and out of her comfort and step outside of her security and sacrifice her social status and sacrifice her reputation and lay everything on the altar before God, because she could not bring Jesus an offering that cost her nothing. She sacrificed everything for him because he's worth it. Because he's worth it. And sometimes I find even myself getting so tight-fisted with stuff, with my time, with my finances, with my security, with all the things I'm trying to build to make my life more comfortable. And I find myself getting so tight-fisted. And do you know when I get there, do you know what I've realized? I've forgotten, ultimately, Jesus is the prize. Jesus is the goal. There's nothing in my life that isn't worth giving up in order to get him.